Hey fellas, in this video we're going to be taking an in-depth look at warbands. On screen, there's going to be a timestamp that you can skip to only watch the basics of warbands if you'd prefer that. It'll basically just cover how to do warbands itself. This will be up to date for 2018, but considering they haven't updated warbands in over a year, there's a good chance that this will just stay up to date forever. Warbands is a dangerous D&D. You're going to be skulled while participating in it, and it's very possible that you can die at this D&D. For this reason, you should only be bringing gear that you're willing to lose. There's no actual requirements besides being pay to play, so don't worry about that. Regardless of what kind of gear or levels you have, you can still do the D&D, and it's only going to take you about 10 to 15 minutes to get up to 350k in one of 5 skills. There is a calculator as well as a timer for the Warbands D&D on the wiki page, which you can check out to see when the next Warbands is. And you'll also be able to see how much XP you're going to gain from this D&D at your level. Warbands happens once every 7 hours on the hour, and it lasts for up to 15 minutes depending on one of the mechanics that the D&D has. On screen you can see 5 skills that Warbands has to offer, which are farming, mining, smithing, herblore, and construction. You can also get Summoning and Prayer from beaming a camp, and Slayer from defeating the boss. Summoning, Prayer, and Slayer only give you about 30k XP a day, in comparison to 350k XP a day, so don't get your hopes up for that. Each icon corresponds with where the supply is located in the camp. During Warbands, 3 out of the 5 supplies are going to be randomly selected and alive on each world. So basically you'll see 3 out of these 5 tents on any world, but they're random. There's also 3 different camp locations where these tents can spawn at. By the way, you're able to touch 75 supplies per day. Each camp holds 25 supplies. These are the items that you bring in to a certain person to get XP from, by the way. This means that if you pick up supplies and lose them, so if you pick them up from the tent or from the ground or anything, if you die for those supplies, it counts towards your 75. Ultimately, this means that any supplies that you do not turn in is XP that you're losing for that day. This resets at reset time, by the way, so if ever you do die a few times, you'll be able to do it again at reset. At the start of Warbands, you're going to receive a chat box message that, as long as your Doomsayer warnings are enabled, it's going to tell you where Warbands camp has been sighted. So it's going to say a Warbands camp has been sighted at either Dark Warrior's Fortress, East Lava Maze, or Red Dragon Isle. You'll be able to use this to go and find the camp and loot from it. On screen right now you can see the 3 camp locations. There's one at 10 Wild, which is Dark Warrior's Fortress, one around 40 Wild, which is East Lava Maze, and one at 32 Wild, which is Red Dragon Isle. Normally people abbreviate these to say DWF, Elm, and RDI instead. To get to DWF, all you want to do is teleport to Edgeville Lodestone and then run north 10 wild levels until you get to the camp. For Elm, you can either cut the wilderness canoe and sail it right to the pond beside the camp, or you can teleport with your Wilderness Sword 1 to get to the herb patch directly. To get to RDI, you teleport with a Games Necklace to Corp Cave, and then you'd run east to the camp itself. All these camps are the same. There's nothing different besides where they are. The tents that spawn at each of the locations are completely random, and so is where the camp itself will spawn during the wave. If you're on a home world every day and you notice that a Warbands is happening, it's never going to be the same location and it's never going to be the same tents on your world, so you're going to have to hop off of your world usually to find worlds to loot from. A Warbands Friends Chat is highly recommended for those of you that will be active doing this D&D multiple times a day or multiple times a week. It's going to save you hundreds of hours depending on how active you are. And if you're worried about joining a Friends Chat, just know that there are Friends Chats that do not require PvP or wars or mandatory attendance. My FC is one of them that I own, so you can check that out in the description below, but just know that there are FCs out there that will not require you to fight other players constantly. I'd also recommend that you have the easy tasks done for the Wilderness, because you get the Wilderness Sword 1, which will teleport you to the Herb Patch, which is basically a free teleport to the Elm Camp, as well as Summer's End Complete to have the Games Necklace teleport to the Corp Cave so that you can get closer to RDI. Additionally, you'd want to have Anticipate, Freedom, and Surge if you're not a skiller. These abilities will help you escape from PKs, so make sure they're on your bar. Anticipate gives you stun immunity for 10 seconds, and Freedom clears your stuns and gives you stun immunity for 6 seconds. So naturally, when you start getting attacked, you would Anticipate, you would then Surge away towards safety, and if ever you do get stunned, you would Freedom it. You can then re-anticipate as you keep running and re-surge as you keep running as well. And lastly, I'd recommend having 43 or higher prayer for the protection prayers, which is also for escaping PKers, as well as 65 defense for Royal D'hide. You don't necessarily need a weapon, although having a weapon is better to clear the camps, and in a friend's chat you will need a weapon regardless. I would still recommend having Royal D'hide to escape from PKers though. On screen right now, what you can see is gear requirements for my own friends chat. These are nearly identical to any other friends chat that's currently available. If you're interested in joining a friends chat, make sure that you have access to at least one of the setups on screen, and make sure that one of these setups actually works for the FC that you're trying to join. I'd really recommend that you get Royal D'hide and a Royal Crossbow. It's very cost efficient and it's super safe to bring because at most you're only risking 200k. If you're going to solo and you don't want to bring gear, I would still really recommend bringing Royal D'hide and an Elder Shield Bow. That should be around 30k risk. It's a good trade-off for the amount of XP that you get. If you skipped here from the start of the video, on screen right now is going to be a map that was shown before. It shows the 3 camp locations, the Dark Warriors Fortress, the East Lava Maze, and the Red Dragon Isle. These are the 3 camps that you're going to be going to during Warbands. As a solo player though, you will most likely be at DWF. This is what a normal Warband setup looks like. It's very low cost gear along with 3 pieces of food and 25 free inventory slots. It's really up to you what you bring, but I would recommend having some kind of gear to clear the camp, especially if you're soloing. At the very start of Warbands, you will receive a chat box message indicating where the camp is located on your world, which you can see right here on screen. You should already be at Dark Warriors Fortress anyway, because if your world isn't a Dark Warriors Fortress, normally you're going to be hopping around to try to find one. So at the very start of the wave, you should already be sitting in this location where I am on the screen right now. When the camp spawns, you'll head north of it to make sure that the NPCs don't see you. You're going to want to beam the camp by clicking on the magic beam. A bar is going to fill above your head, and when it reaches full, you're going to gain some prayer XP. A second bar is going to show up, and you're going to want to beam that one as well. That's going to summon some reinforcements to help you deal with the NPCs inside of the camp. As long as you beam it correctly and it does not break, it will have 15 minutes, and you'll have NPCs to help you clear the camp. When the camp has been cleared either by you or the NPCs or somebody else, you'll be able to loot from one of the supply tents. You basically just pick whichever supply you want out of the supply tents that are on your world. Keep in mind they are random. 3 out of 5 tents will be whatever kind of supply, and 2 of the tents will be dead. So every single world you're going to have to kind of hope for whatever supply is there to be the one that you want, and if it isn't, you'll have to hop until you find a world that does have what you want. Once you found what you want though, you'll want to click on the supply tent and let your character loot the supplies from it. You're going to fill up on 25 supplies, and when you reach 25 supplies, you're going to head towards Edgeville Bridge because you're going to want to turn in your supplies with Quercus. Keep in mind, while you have supplies, you will be tele-blocked by them, and you will also be in multi-way combat. Any level can attack you anywhere in the wild with them on you. If you receive a Wand of Treachery, which is an item you get from looting the Warbands camp, it's pretty common as well. If you receive it, it's going to smite your prayer to 0. When this happens, it also gives a notification to everyone around you that you received it. So if you are carrying a weapon with you, make sure you have a prayer potion of some sort. If ever you get the wand, you'll want to drink the prayer potion and immediately re-protect item so that you can keep your +1. If you've completed as a first resort, you can jump inside of the Infinite Run pool, also known as the Salt pool at Uglog. This gives you infinite run for up to 20 minutes. You can also bonfire up for an HP boost which will last an hour, This should be done about a minute or two before Warbands starts to get the most out of the infinite run boost. If you're a member of a friends chat, you'll be required to turn your online status off by clicking the diamond button in the top right corner of your chat box, like I'm doing right now, and you'll also temporarily leave your clan chat channel by clicking the far left leave clan chat channel button for your clan chat. If you weren't on the world to see where the camp was located, or whether or not the camp was beamed, you can actually speak to Quirkus and he will tell you where the camp is on whatever world you're on, and there's a way to check how long a camp has left alive without talking to Quirkus. It's actually done through your game clock. Keep in mind you can also do this through your minigames tab looking at the Warbands timer, but I'm going to explain it for your game clock because it's easier for players to do this. So you're going to want to go into your minigames tab. You're going to add Warbands to your favorites by clicking the star button. Once Warbands is added to your favorites, you're going to want to go into your interface settings by going into settings first, then clicking interface, and you're going to make sure that you've chosen to show reset timers on game clock. Once you've done this, there is going to be a little circle beside your game clock that will tell you when the next Warbands will occur. However, during Warbands, if a camp is active, the hours until next Warbands wave is actually minutes until the camp dies. So, if you see 14 hours and 17 minutes, it actually means 14 minutes and 17 seconds left on the camp. If the camp is really dead though, it will show the real time until the next Warbands wave, which is usually 6 hours and 45 minutes or so. As a newcomer to Warbands, it might not be obvious to you yet, but if there's a whole bunch of the same colored capes at the same Warbands camp, it's a very good chance that that's a clan. Almost all the time it will be a clan, and clan worlds are always unsafe. There are a few clans that are unaggressive to naked whites looting alone, which there really isn't that many of them, but I mean there are some. So you can risk looting on these worlds if you really want to, but just keep in mind if you're trying to survive, it's better not to loot on worlds where there's a whole group of the same type of person. Also, if you can, try to loot from worlds that are very crowded. That way you can hide in the crowd of people and you have a higher chance for survivability. As a solo player, you'll be spending your entire Warbands wave at the Dark Warriors Fortress where I am here in the video. This is the closest camp to Edgeville, which will allow you to almost always escape from PKers that will get on you, and in this clip you'll also see that I do get attacked by a PKer and I simply run away from them. It will also make it much easier for you to get your 75 supplies. The reason for that is because Warbands only last around 15 minutes, and you're going to spend almost half of that time trying to find worlds that are alive. This is a little tedious, and obviously it would be better to have a friends chat help you do this, but as a solo player it can be done, it just takes a little while. One other little thing you can do, if you want to research the team capes of the active friends chats, you can. If you do so, you can then bring all of their team capes in your inventory and you can wear them to sneak in with the crowd whenever they show up. This isn't that recommended since most people know when you're doing so, but you can get away with it once in a while. For this section, I'd just like to warn everybody that some friends chats may not operate this way, and just make sure to check with your FC that they actually operate in the way that I'm explaining, because if they don't, you might get in trouble. However, for those of you that are planning on joining my friends chat after the video, or if you're already in my friends chat and somehow watching this for whatever reason, just know that everything I'm going to talk about is something we do, so there's no problems doing it. A few minutes before Warbands begins, you'll want to get inside of whatever voice program your FC uses. Some use Discord, some use Vent, some use TeamSpeak. Most of them are going to use TeamSpeak. There's like 2 or 3 that use Discord like mine. However, once you're inside of the voice call, usually the host will tell you what to expect or what to do. You'll also want to turn your online status off and temporarily leave your clan chat channel. You can go and grab the infinite run boost and bonfire up if you want to as well. Once you're fully ready, you're going to want to go to the DWF camp and prepare to call out your world. At the very start of the wave, a camp will be called out in your chat box. I covered that above, but in case you're only looking here, you're going to see a chat say A Warbands camp has been sighted in one of 3 locations. You are going to call that location along with the world number that you are on into your friends chat if your friends chat permits it, so that they have more worlds to go to. If your world is not a DWF, normally you would hop to a world that is and help beam it, or you'd stay on yours and beam yours if it was one. For the first 2 minutes or so, you're going to be beaming DWF worlds. Then you're going to spend about 8 minutes looting from those DWF worlds. Most likely, depending on your FC, you'll be looting from the safe worlds that the host calls out, or you might have the liberty to go whatever world you want, and you would most likely go to safe worlds anyway. So you would spend 8 minutes getting 75 supplies from 3 different camps. After 10 minutes, most DWFs will be dead. They could also be empty. Empty refers to the fact that there is no more supplies inside of a tent, or they will be unsafe. For this reason, most FCs will leave DWF around 10 minutes in, and they'll head to Elms and RDIs. Some FCs may require you to go to war 10 minutes into the wave, or they may spend the last 5 to 10 minutes crashing other groups. However, in my FC, we will scout the Elms and RDIs and loot them just like we did to DWF, which will basically just be for people that could not get their 75 supplies from the Dark Warriors Fortress camps. Almost all Warbands FCs will allow you to get 75 supplies in around 10 minutes, as long as they permit you to loot from the camps. So if you're worried about not getting your supplies, you should be joining a friends chat, but if you, of course, cannot get into one, I did cover how to go about doing warbands in the solo strategy just before this part, so feel free to check that out instead. If you're going to be doing warbands multiple times a week or even multiple times a day, it's incredibly helpful to be inside of a warbands friends chat. It's very possible for those of you that have not joined one before or looked into joining one, might have heard some negative stuff from your friends. You might have heard that you have to PK to be inside of a friends chat, or that you have to go to war. I personally own a friends chat that does not require PvP, nor does it require going to war, and we don't even have mandatory attendance. There's other FCs like mine. Some are a lot smaller, there's some that are around the same size. You just have to look. I will leave in the description below info for all the active friends chats, and on screen right now you can see me scrolling through the different friends chats. In terms of requirements for any FC, usually they're all the same. If you pause the video at all and look at any of these rules and gear requirements, keep in mind they might get outdated, but you'll notice that they're pretty much all the same. You'll need access to Discord or TeamSpeak. This is dependent on whatever FC uses what. And you'll also want to have a Royal Crossbow and Royal D'hide with 67 summoning, which will probably get you into pretty much every FC. Just keep in mind, you might have noticed that I've scrolled over the word PvP trial in a few different FCs. This is something that some of them will require along with wars, so if you do not want that, make sure you read up on whatever FC you're joining to make sure that what they have is what you want.